Good evening, my friend, and welcome to your guided sleep story. My name is Yulika, and it's my privilege to be the voice that you listen to as you go to sleep tonight. After the story, the sounds and music will continue to play. YouTube allows you to add a timer that you can set, and the settings also make sure to disable autoplay, so your sleep won't be interrupted by ads from upcoming videos if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and give the video a thumbs up. I wish you a pleasant rest and a great sleep. Now make yourself comfortable, and whenever you're ready you can close your eyes. Listen to today's story, Little Prince. We are introduced to the narrator, a pilot, and his ideas about grown minus-ups. Once, when I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent picture in a book called True Stories from Nature about the primeval forest. It was a picture of a boa constrictor in the act of swallowing an animal. Here is a copy of the drawing. In the book it said, "Boa constrictors swallow their prey whole without chewing it. After that they are not able to move, and they sleep through the 6 months that they need for digestion." I pondered deeply then over the adventures of the jungle, and after some work with a colored pencil, I succeeded in making my first drawing. My drawing number 1. It looked like this. I showed my masterpiece to the grown minus-ups. But they answered frightened. Why should anyone be frightened by a hat? My drawing was not a picture of a hat. It was a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. But since the grown minus-ups were not able to understand it, I made another drawing. I drew the inside of the boa constrictor so that the grown minus-ups could see it clearly. They always need to have things explained. My drawing number 2 looked like this. The grown minus-ups' response this time was to advise me to lay aside my drawings of boa constrictors, whether from the inside or the outside, and devote myself instead to geography, arithmetic, and grammar. That is why, at the age of 6, I gave up what might have been a magnificent career as a painter. I had been disheartened by the failure of my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2. Grown minus-ups never understand anything by themselves. So then I chose another profession and learned to pilot airplanes. I have flown a little over all parts of the world, and it is true that geography has been very useful to me. At a glance I can distinguish China from Arizona if one gets lost in the night. Such knowledge is valuable. In the course of this life, I have had a great many encounters with a great many people who have been concerned with matters of consequence. I have lived a great deal among grown minus-ups. I have seen them intimately, close at hand, and that hasn't much improved my opinion of them. Whenever I met one of them who seemed to me at all clear minus sighted, I tried the experiment of showing him my drawing number 1, which I have always kept. I would try to find out. So, if this was a person of true understanding, but whoever it was, he or she would always say that is a hat. Then I would never talk to that person about boa constrictors, or primeval forests, or stars. I would bring myself down to his level. I would talk to him about bridge, and golf, and politics, and neckties. And the grown minus up would be greatly to have met such a sensible man. Without anyone that I could really talk to, until I had an accident with my plane in the desert of Sahara. 6 years ago, something was broken in my engine. And as I had with me either a mechanic nor any passengers, I set myself to attempt the difficult repairs all alone. The first night then, I went to sleep on the sand. Thus, you can imagine my amazement at sunrise when I was awakened by an odd little voice. It said, if you please minus draw me a sheep. What? Draw me a sheep. I jumped to my feet, completely thunderstruck. I blinked my eyes hard, and I saw a most extraordinary small person who stood there examining me with great seriousness. Here you may see the best portrait that later I was able to make of him. But my drawing is certainly very much less charming than its model. That, however, is not my fault. The grown minus ups discouraged me in my painter's career when I was 6 years old, and I never learned to draw anything except boas from the outside and boas from the inside. Now I stared at this sudden apparition with my eyes fairly starting out of my head in astonishment, remembering I had crashed in the desert 1,000 miles from any inhabited region. And yet, my little man seemed neither to be straying uncertainly among the sands, nor to be fainting from fatigue or hunger or thirst or fear. Nothing about him gave any suggestion of a child lost in the middle of the desert. 1,000 miles from any human habitation. When at last I was able to speak, I said to him, but minus, what are you doing here? And in answer he repeated, very slowly, as if he were speaking of a matter of great consequence, if you please minus draw me a sheep. When a mystery is too overpowering, one dare not disobey, absurd as it might seem to me. I took out of my pocket a sheet of paper and my fountain minus pen. But then I remembered how my studies had been concentrated on geography. Maita Dehilu Chapel. Yes. So that I did not know how to draw, he answered me. That doesn't matter. Draw me a sheep. But I had never drawn a sheep, so I drew for him one of the two pictures I had drawn so often. It was that of the boa constrictor from the outside. No, I do not want an elephant inside a boa constrictor. Draw me a sheep. So then I made a drawing. He looked at it carefully. Then he said no. This sheep is already very sickly. Make me another. So I made another drawing. My friend smiled gently and indulgent why. You see yourself, he said, that this is not a sheep. But it was rejected too, just like the others. This one is too old. I want a sheep that will live a long time. By this time my patience was exhausted, because I was in a hurry to start taking my engine apart. So I tossed off this drawing, and I threw out an explanation with it. This is only his box. The sheep you asked for is inside. That is exactly the way I wanted it. Do you think that this sheep will have to have a great deal of grass? Why? Because where I live everything is very small. There will surely be enough grass for him, I said. It is a very small sheep that I have given you. He bent his head over the drawing. Not so small that minus look. He has gone to sleep, and that is how I made the acquaintance of the little prince. The narrator learns more about from where the little prince came. It took me a long time to learn where he came from. The little prince, who asked me so many questions, never seemed to hear the ones I asked him. It was from words dropped by chance that, little by little, everything was revealed to me. The first time he saw my airplane. For instance, I shall not draw my airplane. That would be much too complicated for me. He asked me, what is that object? That is not an object. It is an airplane. It is my airplane. And I was proud to have him learn that I could fly. He cried out, "Then what? You dropped down from the sky." which irritated me very much. I like my misfortunes to be taken seriously. Then he added, so you two come from the sky. Which is your planet? At that moment, I caught a gleam of light and the impenetrable mystery of his presence, and I demanded, abruptly, do you come from another planet? But he did not reply. He tossed his head gently, without taking his eyes from my plane. It is true that on that you can't have come from very far away. And he sank into a reverie, which lasted a long time. Then, taking my sheep out of his pocket, he buried himself in the contemplation of his treasure. You can imagine how my curiosity was aroused by this half-minded confidence about the other planets. Maine. Of which you speak? Where do you want to take your sheep? That is so, and if you are good, I will give you a string. 2, so that you can't eye him during the day, and a post to tie him to. Tie him. What a queer idea. But if you don't tie him, I said, he will wander off somewhere and get lost. My friend broke into another peal of laughter. But where do you think he would go? Anywhere. Straight ahead of him. Then the little prince said, where I live. And, with perhaps a hint of sadness, he added straight ahead of him. Nobody can go very far, the narrator speculates, as to which asteroid from which the little prince came. I had thus learned a second fact of great importance. This was that the planet the little prince came from was scarcely any larger than a house. But that did not really surprise me much. I knew very well that in addition to the great planets minus, such as the Earth, Jupiter, Mars, Venus minus to which we have given names, there are also hundreds of others, some of which are so small that one has a hard time seeing them through the telescope. But only a number. You might call it, for example, asteroid 325. I have serious reason to believe that the planet from which the Little Prince came is the asteroid known as B-612. This asteroid has only once been seen through the telescope. That was by a Turkish astronomer in 1909 on making his discovery. In a great demonstration, but he was in Turkish costume, and so nobody would believe what he said. Grown minus-ups are like that. Fortunately, however, for the reputation of asteroid B-612, a Turkish dictator made a law that his subjects, under pain of death, should change to European costume. So in 1920, the astronomer gave his demonstration all over again, dressed with impressive style and elegance. And this time, everybody accepted his report. If I have told you these details about the asteroid, when you tell them that you have made a new friend, they never ask you any questions about essential matters. They never say to you, "What does his voice sound like? What gangs does he love best? Does he collect butterflies?" Instead, they demand, how old is he? How many brothers has he? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father make? Only from these figures do they think they have learned anything about him. If you were to say to the grown minus-ups, "I saw a beautiful house made of rosy brick, with geraniums in the windows and doves on the roof," they would not be able to get any idea of that house at all. You would have to say to them, "I saw a house that cost $20. Zorro. Then they would exclaim, "Oh, what a pretty house that is." Just so. You might say to them the proof that the Little Prince existed is that he was charming, that he laughed, and that he was looking for a sheep. If anybody wants a sheep, that is a proof that he exists. The planet he came from is asteroid B-612, then they would be convinced and leave you in peace from their questions. They are like that. One must not hold it against them. Children should always show great forbearance toward grown minus-up people. For us who understand life, I should have liked to begin this story in the fashion of the fairy Minas tales. and who had need of a sheep, to those who understand life. For I do not want anyone to read my book carelessly. I have suffered too much grief in setting down these memories. With his sheep, if I try to describe him here, it is to make sure that I shall not forget him. To forget a friend is sad. Not everyone has had a friend, and if I forget him, I may become like the grown Minus-ups who are no longer interested in anything but figures. It is for that purpose, again, that I have bought a box of paints and some pencils. It is hard to take up drawing again at my age, when I have never made any pictures except those of the boa constrictor from the outside and the boa constrictor from the inside. Since I was 6, I shall certainly try to make my portraits as true to life as possible. But I am not at all sure of success. One drawing goes along all right, and another has no resemblance to its subject. I make some errors, too. In the little Lee Prince's height, in one place, he is too tall and in another too short. And I feel some doubts about the color of his costume. So I fumble along as best I can. Now good, now good. And I hope generally fair minus to minus middling. In certain more important details, I shall make mistakes. Also, but that is something that will not be my fault. My friend never explained anything to me. He thought, perhaps, that I was like himself. But I, alas, do not know how to see sheep through tee walls of boxes. Perhaps I am a little like the grown Minus-ups. I have had to grow old. We are warned as to the dangers of the Bobabess. As each day passed, I would learn, in our talk, something about the little prince's planet. As it might chance to fall from his thoughts. It was in this way that I heard. This time, once more, I had the sheep to thank for it. For the little prince asked me abruptly minus, as if seized by a graved-out minus. Minus, it is true. Isn't it, that you eat little bushes? Yes, that is true. Oh, I am glad. I did not understand why it was so important that sheep should eat little bushes. But the little prince added then, it follows that they also eat Bobabess. I pointed out to the little prince that Bobabess were not little bushes. The herd would not eat up one single Bobab. The idea of the herd of elephants made the little prince laugh. He said, but he made a wise comment before they grow so big. The boba best start out by being little. That is strictly correct, I said. But why do you want the sheep to eat the little boba best? He answered me at once, "Oh, come, come," as if he were speaking of something that were self-minus evident. And I was obliged to make a great mental effort to solve this problem without any assistance. Indeed, as I learned, there were on the planet where the little prince lived minus, as on all planets, minus good plants and bad plants, and bad seeds from bad plants. But seeds are invisible until someone among them is seized with the desire to awaken. Then this little seed will stretch itself and begin minus, immediately at first minus to push a charming little sprig inoffensively upward toward the sun. If it is only a sprout of radish, or the sprig of a rose minus bush, one would let it grow wherever it might wish. But when it is a bad plant, one must destroy it as soon as possible, the very first instant that one recognizes it. Now there were some terrible seeds on the planet that was the home of the little prince, and these were the seeds of the bobat. The soil of that planet was infested with them. A bobat is something you will never be able to get rid of if you attend to it too late. It spreads over the entire planet. It bores clear through it with its roots. They split it in pieces. It is a question of discipline. The little prince said to me later on, "When you've finished your own toilet in the morning, then it is time to attend to the toilet of your planet. Just so, with the greatest care. You must see to it that you pull up regularly all the bobabes at the very first moment when they can be distinguished from the rose bushes, which they resemble so closely in their earliest youth. It is very tedious work," the little prince added, "but very easy. And one day he said to me, you ought to make a beautiful drawing so that the children where you live can see exactly how all this is. That would be very useful to them if they were to travel someday." Sometimes, he added, there is no harm in putting off a piece of work until another day. I knew a planet that was inhabited by a lazy man. He neglected 3 little bushes. So, as the little prince described it to me, I have made it a drawing of that planet. I do not much like to take the tone of a moralist. That for once I am breaking through my reserve. Children, I say plainly, watch out for the bobabes. My friends, like myself, have been skirting this danger for a long time, without ever knowing it, and so it is for them that I have worked so hard over this drawing. The lesson which I pass on by this means is worth all the trouble it has cost me. Perhaps you will ask me, why are there no other drawing in this book as magnificent and impressive as this drawing of the Bobabas? When I made the drawing of the Bobabas, I was carried beyond myself by the inspiring force of urgent necessity. The little prince and the narrator talk about sunsets. Oh, little prince, bit by bit I came to understand the secrets of your sad little life. For a long time, you had found your only entertainment in the quiet pleasure of looking at the sunset. I learn exit new detail on the morning of the 4th day. W. Hen, you said to me, I am very fond of sunsets. Come. Let us go look at a sunset now. But we must wait, I said. Wait? For what? For the sunset. We must wait until it is time. At first, you seemed to be very much surprised, and then you laughed to yourself. You said to me, I am always thinking that I am at home. Just so. Everybody knows that when it is noon in the United States, the sun is setting over France. If you could fly to France in 1 minute, you could go straight into the sunset. Right from you. Unfortunately, France is too far away for that. But on your tiny planet, my little prince, all you need do is move your chair a few steps. You can see the day and the twilight falling whenever you like. And a little later you added you know -1 loves the sunset. On the day of the 40- for sunsets, but the little prince made no reply. The narrator learns about the secret of the little prince's life on the 5th guy -, again. Abruptly, without anything to lead up to it, and as if the question had been born of long and silent meditation on his problem. He demanded a sheep -, if it eats little bushes, does it eat flowers? Too? I answered, eats anything it finds in its reach, even flowers that have thorns? Yes. Even flowers that have thorns. Then the thorns what use are they? I did not know. At that moment, I was very busy trying to unscrew a bolt that had got stuck in my engine. I was very much worried, for it was becoming clear to me that the breakdown of my plane was extremely serious. The thorns what use are they? The little prince never let go of a question. Once he had asked it. As for me, I was upset over that bolt. and I answered with the first thing that came into my head. The thorns are of no use at all. Flowers have thorns, just for spite. Oh, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the little prince flashed back at me. With a kind of resentfulness, I don't believe you. Flowers are weak creatures. They are naive. They reassure themselves as best they can. They believe that their thorns are terrible weapons. I did not answer. At that instant, I was saying to myself, if this bulb still won't turn, I am going to knock it out with the hammer. Again, the little prince disturbed my thoughts. And you actually believe that the flowers minus so? No, I cried. No. No. I don't believe anything. I answered you with the first thing that came into my head. He stared at me, thunderstruck. Matters of consequence. He looked at me there, with my hammer in my hand. My fingers black with Enjon vinous grease, bending down over an object which seemed to him extremely ugly. You talk just like the grown minus-ups. That made me a little ashamed. But he went on, relentlessly, and mix everything up together. You confuse everything. He was really very angry. He tossed his golden curls in the breeze. I know a planet where there is a certain red minus-faced gentleman. He has never smelled a flower. He has never looked at a star. He has never loved anyone. He has never done anything in his life but add up figures. And all day he says over and over, just like you, I am busy with matters of consequence. He is not a nan minus. He is a mushroom. I what? I mushroom. The little prince was now white with rage. The flowers have been growing thorns for millions of years. For millions of years, the sheep have been eating them just the same. And is it not a matter of consequence to try to understand why the flowers go to so much trouble to grow thorns which are never of any use to them? Is not of more consequence than a fat, red minus-faced gentleman sums. And if I know minus I, myself minus one flower, which is unique in the world, which grows nowhere but on my planet, but which one little sheep can destroy in a single bite some morning. His face turned from white to red and continued. It is enough to make him happy just to look at the stars. He can say to himself, somewhere, my flower is there. His words were choked by sobbing. The night had fallen. I had let my tools drop from my hands. Of what moment now was my hammer? My bolt, or thirst, or death? On one star, one planet, my planet, the Earth, there was a little prince to be comforted. I took him in my arms and rocked him. I said to him, I will draw you a rail to put around your flower. I will minus. I did not know what to say to him. I felt awkward and blundering. I did not know how I could reach him, where I could overtake him and go on hand in hand with him once more. It is such a secret place. The land of tears the rose arrives at the little prince's planet. I soon learned to know this flower better. On the little prince's planet the flowers had always been very simple. They had only one ring of petals. They took up no room that were a trouble to nobody. One morning they would appear in the grass, then by night they would have faded peacefully away. But one day, from a seed blown from no one knew where, it might, you see, have been a new kind of baobab. The shrub soon stopped growing and began to get ready to produce a flower. The little prince, who was present at the first appearance of a huge bud, felt at once that some sort of miraculous apparition must emerge from it. But the flower was not satisfied to complete the preparations for her beauty in the shelter of her green chamber. She chose her colors with the greatest care. She adjusted her petals one by one. She did not wish to go out into the world all rumpled, like the field poppies. It was only in the full radiance of her beauty that she wished to appear. Oh yes, she was a Kokoth creature, and her mysterious adornment lasted for days and days. Then, one morning, exactly at sunrise, she suddenly showed herself. And after working with all this painstaking precision, she yawned and said, I am scarcely awake. I beg that you will excuse me. My petals are still all disarranged. But the little prince could not restrain his admiration. Oh, how beautiful you are. Am I not? The flower responded sweetly, and I was born at the same moment as the sun. The little prince could guess easily enough that she was not any too modest minus, but how moving minus, and exciting minus she was. I think it is time for breakfast, she added an instant later. If you would have the kindness to think of my needs minus and the little prince, completely abashed, went to look for a sprinkling minus can of fresh water. So he tended the flower. So too She began very quickly to torment him with her vanity minus. If the truth be known, a little difficult to deal with. One day, for instance, when she was speaking of her for thorns, she said to the little prince, "Let the tigers come with their claws." "There are no tigers on my planet." The little prince objected. "And anyway, tigers do not eat weeds. I am not a weed." Sweetly. "I am not at all afraid of tigers," she went on, "but I have a horror of drafts. I suppose you wouldn't have a screen for me? I have a horror of drafts minus." "That is bad luck for a plant," remarked the little prince, and added to himself, "This flower is a very complex creature." "At night, I want you to put me under a glass globe. It is very cold where you live. In the place I came from minus. But she interrupted herself at that point. She had come in the form of a seed. She could not have known anything of any other worlds. Embarrassed over having let herself be caught on the verge of such an in truth, she coughed 2 or 3 times in order to put the little prince in the wrong. "The screen? I was just going to look for it when you spoke to me." Then she forced her cough a little more so that he should suffer from remorse just the same. So the little prince, in spite of all the goodwill that was inseparable from his love, had soon come to doubt her. He had taken seriously words which were without importance, and it made him very unhappy. I ought not to have listened to her. He confided to me one day, "One never ought to listen to the flowers. One should simply look at them and breathe their fragrance." Mine perfumed all my planet, but I did not know how to take pleasure in all her grace. This tale of claws, which disturbed me so much, should only have filled my heart with tenderness and pity. And he continued his confidences. "The fact is that I did not know how to understand anything. I ought to have judged by deeds and not by words. She cast her fragrance and her radiance over me. I ought never to have run away from her. I ought to have guessed all the affection that lay behind her poor little stratagemess. Flowers are so inconsistent. But I was too young to know how to love her. The little prince leaves his planet. I believe that for his escape, he took advantage of the migration of a flock of wild birds. On the morning of his departure, he put his planet in perfect order. He carefully cleaned out his active volcanoes. He possessed active volcanoes, and they were very convenient for heating his breakfast in the morning. He also had one volcano that was extinct. But, as he said, too, if they are well cleaned out, volcanoes burn slowly and steadily, without any eruptions. Volcanic eruptions are like fires in a chimney. On our Earth, we are obviously much too small to clean out our volcanoes. That is why they bring no end of trouble upon us. The little prince also pulled up, with a certain sense of dejection, the last little shoots of the Baobabs. He believed that he would never want to return. But on this last morning, all these familiar tasks seemed very precious to him. And when he watered the flower for the last time, and prepared to place her under the shelter of her glass globe, he realized that he was very close to tears. "Goodbye," he said to the flower, but she made no answer. "Goodbye," he said again. The flower coughed, but it was not because she had a cold. "I have been silly," she said to him, at last. "I ask your forgiveness. Try to be happy." He was surprised by this absence of reproaches. He did not understand this quiet sweetness. "Of course I love you," the flower said to him. "It is my fault that you have not known it all the while. That is of no importance, but you you have been just as foolish as I. Try to be happy. Let the glass glow be. I don't want it anymore. But the wind minus my cold is not so bad as all that. The cool night air will do me good. I am a flower. But the animals well, I must endure the presence of 2 or 3 caterpillars if I wish to become acquainted with the butterflies. It seems that they are very beautiful. And if not the butterflies and me nice, and the caterpillars minus who will call upon me, you will be far away. As for the large animals minus, I am not at all afraid of any of them. Then she added, "Don't linger like this. You have decided to go away. Now go." For she did not want him to see her crying. She was such a proud flower. The little prince visits the king. He found himself in the neighborhood of the asteroids 325. In order to add to his knowledge, the first of them was inhabited by a king, clad in royal purple underman. He was seated upon a throne, which was at the same time both simple and majestic. And the little prince asked himself, how could he recognize me when he had never seen me before? He did not know how the world is simplified for kings. To them, all men are subjects. Approach, so that I may see you better, said the king, who felt concerning. The little prince looked everywhere to find a place to sit down, but the entire planet was crowned by the king's magnificent ermine robe, so he remained standing upright. And since he was tired, he yawned. It is contrary to etiquette to yawn in the presence of a king. The monarch said to him, I forbid you to do so. I can't help it. I can't stop myself, replied the little prince, thoroughly embarrassed. I have come on a long journey, and I have had no sleep. Then the king said, I order you to yawn. To me, are objects of curiosity. Come, yawn again. It is an order that frightens me. I cannot anymore. Replied the king. Then I minus. I order you sometimes to yawn and sometimes to minus. He sputtered a little. He tolerated no disobedience. He was an absolute monarch. But because he was a very good man, he made his orders reasonable. If I ordered a general, he would say, by way of example, if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the fault of the general. It would be my fault. May I sit down? Came now a timid inquiry from the little prince. I order you to do so, the king answered him, and majestically gathered in a fold of his ermine mantle. Over what could this king really rule? Sire, he said to him, I beg that you will excuse my asking you a question minus. I order you to ask me a question. The king hastes, and to assure him, Sire minus. Over what do you rule? Over everything, said the king, with magnificent simplicity. Over everything. The king made a gesture, which took in his planet. The other planets, and all the stars. Over all that? Asked the little prince. Over all that, the king answered. For his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal. And the stars obey you? Certainly they do, the king said. They obey instantly. I do not permit insubordination. Such power was a thing for the little prince to marvel at. If he had been master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sunset. Not 40 minus for times in one day, but 70 minus 2, or even 100, or even 200 times without ever having to move his chair. And because he felt a bit sad as he remembered his little planet, which he had forsaken, he plucked up his courage to ask the king a favor. "I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness. Order the sun to set. If I ordered a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to write a drama, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not carry out the order that he had received, which one of us would be in the wrong?" the king demanded. "The general or myself?" "You," said the little prince firmly. "Exactly." "One might require from each one the duty which each one can perform," the king went on. "Accepted authority rests first of all on reason. If you ordered your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, they would rise up in revolution. I have the right to require obedience because my orders are reasonable." For he never forgot a question once he had asked it. "You shall have your sunset. I shall command it. But, according to my science of government, I shall wait until conditions are favorable." "When will it be?" inquired the little prince. Replied the king, and before saying anything else, he consulted a bulky almanac. "And you will see how well I am obeyed." The little prince yawned. He was regretting his lost sunset. And then, too, he was already beginning to be a little bored. "I have nothing more to do here," he said to the king. "So I shall set out on my way again." "Do not go," said the king, who was very proud of having a subject. "Do not go. I will make you a minister." "Minister of what?" "Minister of Minos of justice." "But there is nobody here to judge." "We do not know that." The king said to him, "I have not yet made a complete tour of my kingdom. I am very old. There is no room here for a carriage, and it tires me to walk. "Oh, but I have looked already," said the little prince, turning around to give one more glance to the other side of the planet. On that side, as on this, there was nobody at all. "Then you shall judge yourself," the king answered. "That is the most difficult thing of all. It is much more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. If you succeed in judging yourself rightly, then you are indeed a man of true wisdom." "Yes," said the little prince, "but I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live on this planet." Said the king. I have good reason to believe that somewhere on my planet there is an old rat. I hear him at night. You can judge this old rat. From time to time, you will condemn him to death. Thus, his life will depend on your justice. But you will pardon him on each occasion, for he must be treated thrift ILY. He is the only one we have. I, replied the little prince, do not like to condemn anyone to death. And now I think I will go on my way. No, said the king. But the little prince, having now completed his preparations for departure, had no wish to grieve the old monarch. If your majesty wishes to be promptly obeyed. He should be able, for example, to order me to be gone by the end of 1 minute. It seems to me that conditions are favorable. As the king made no answer, the little prince hesitated a moment. Then, with a sigh, he took his leave. I made you my ambassador, the king called out. Hastily, he had a magnificent air of authority. The Grand Minus-Ups were very strange. The little prince said to himself as he continued on his journey. The little prince visits the conceited man. The second planet was inhabited by a conceited man. Ah, I am about to receive a visit from an admirer, he exclaimed from afar when he first saw the little prince coming. For, to conceited men, all other men are admirers. Good morning, said the little prince. That is a queer hat you are wearing. It is a hat for salutes, the conceited man replied. It is to raise and salute when people acclaim me. Unfortunately, nobody at all ever passes this way. Yes, said the little prince, who did not understand what the conceited man was talking about. Clap your hands, one against the other. The conceited man now directed him. The little prince clapped his hands. The conceited man raised his hat in a modest salute. This is more entertaining than the visit to the king, the little prince said to himself, and he began again to clap his hands, one against the other. The conceited man again raised his hat in salute. After 5 minutes of this exercise, the little prince grew tired of the game's monotony. And what should one do to make the hat come down? Conceited people never hear anything but praise. Do you really admire me very much? He demanded of the little prince. What does that mean, minus, admire? The best minus dressed, the richest, and the most intelligent man on this planet. But you are the only man on your planet. Do me this kindness. Admire me just the same. I admire you, said the little prince, shrugging his shoulders slightly. But what is there in that to interest you so much? And the little prince went away. The grown minus-ups are certainly very odd. The little prince visits the Tipple, or the next planet, was inhabited by a Tipple-R. This was a very short visit, but it plunged the little prince into deep dejection. Whom he found settled down in silence before a collection of empty bottles, and also a collection of full bottles. I am drinking, replied the Tipple-R, with a lugubrious air. Why are you drinking? Demanded the little prince. So that I may forget, replied the Tipple-R. Forget what? Inquired the little prince, who already was sorry for him. Forget that I am ashamed. The Tipple-R confessed, hanging his head. Ashamed of what? Insisted the little prince. Who wanted to help him, ashamed of drinking. The Tipple-R brought his speech to an end. Puzzled. The grown minus-ups are certainly very, very odd, he said to himself as he continued on his journey. The little prince visits the businessman. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. This man was so much occupied that he did not even raise his head at the little prince's arrival. Good morning, the little prince said to him. Your cigarette has gone out. 3 and 2 make 5. 5 and 7 make 12. 12 and 3 make 15. Good morning. 15 and 7 make 20 minus 2. 20 minus 2 and 6 make 20 minus 8. I haven't time to light it again. 20 minus 6 and 5 make 30 minus 1. Phew. Then that makes 5 minus and minus. 1 minus 1 minus million. 6 minus 100 minus 20 minus 2 minus 1,000. 7 minus 100 minus 30 minus 1. 500 million what? Asked the little prince. Huh? Are you still there? 5 minus 100 minus 1 million minus minus. I can't stop. I have so much to do. I am concerned with matters of consequence. 5 minus 100 minus 1 million what? Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. The businessman raised his head. During the 50 minus for years that I have inhabited this planet, I have been disturbed only 3 times. The first time was 20 minus 2 years ago. He made the most frightful noise that resounded all over the place, and I made for mistakes in my addition. The second time, 11 years ago, I was disturbed by an attack of rheumatism. I don't get enough exercise. I have no time for loafing. The third time Minos minus, well, this is it. I was saying then, 5 minus 100 minus and minus, 1 millions minus minus millions of what? The businessman suddenly realized that there was no hope of being left in peace until he answered this question. Millions of those little objects, he said, which one sometimes sees in the sky. Flies? Oh no. Little glittering objects. Bees? Oh no. Little golden objects that set lazy men to idle dreaming. There is no time for idle dreaming in my life. Ah. You mean the stars? Yes, that's it. The stars. And what do you do with 5 minus 100 millions of stars? 5 minus 100 minus and minus 1 million. 6 minus 100 minus 20 minus 2000. 7 minus 100 minus 30 minus 1. I am concerned with matters of consequence. I am accurate. And what do you do with these stars? What do I do with them? Yes. Nothing. I own them. You own the stars? Yes. But I have already seen a king who minus kings do not own. They reign over. It is a very different matter. And what good does it do you to own the stars? It does me the good of making me rich. And what good does it do you to be rich? It makes it possible for me to buy more stars, if any are ever discovered. This man, the little prince, said to himself, reasons a little like my poor Tipular. Nevertheless, he still had some more questions. How is it possible for one to own the stars? To whom do they belong? The businessman retorted, peevishly, I don't know. To nobody. Then they belong to me? Because I was the first person to think of it. Is that all that is necessary? It is yours. When you get an idea before anyone else, you take out a patent on it, it is yours. So with me, I own the stars, because nobody else before me ever thought of owning them. Yes, that is true, said the little prince. And what do you do with them? It is difficult, but I am a man who is naturally interested in matters of consequence. The little prince was still not satisfied. If I owned a silk scarf, he said, I could put it around my neck and take it away with me. If I owned a flower, I could pluck that flower and take it away with me. But you cannot pluck the stars from heaven. No. But I can put them in the bag. Whatever does that mean? And then I put this paper in a drawer and lock it with a key. And that is all. That is enough, said the businessman. It is entertaining, thought the little prince. It is rather poetic, but it is of no great consequence. On matters of consequence. The little prince had ideas which were very different from those of the grown Minus-Ups. I myself own a flower. He continued his conversation with the businessman. Which I water every day. I own 3 volcanoes, which I clean out every week, for I also clean out the one that is extinct one never knows. It is of some use to my volcanoes, and it is of some use to my flower, that I own them, but you are of no use to the stars. The businessman opened his mouth, but he found nothing to say in answer. The grown Minus-Ups are certainly altogether extraordinary. The little prince visits the lamplighter, the 5th planet, was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room on it for a street lamp and a lamplighter. The little prince was not able to reach any explanation of the use of a street lamp and a lamplighter. Somewhere in the heavens, on a planet which had no people, and not one house. But he said to himself, nevertheless, the conceited man, the businessman, and the Tipular, for at least his work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as if he brought one more star to life, or one flower. That is a beautiful occupation. And since it is beautiful, it is truly useful. When he arrived on the planet, he respectfully saluted the lamplighter. Good morning. Why have you just put out your lamp? Those are the orders, replied the lamplighter. Good morning. What are the orders? The orders are that I put out my lamp. Good evening. And he lighted his lamp again. But why have you just lighted it again? Those are the orders, replied the lamplighter. I do not understand, said the lamplighter. Orders are orders. Good morning. And he put out his lamp. Then he mopped his forehead with a handkerchief decorated with red squares. I follow a terrible profession. In the old days it was reasonable. I put the lamp out in the morning, and in the evening I lighted it again. I had the rest of the day for relaxation, and the rest of the night for sleep. And the orders have been changed since the time? That is the tragedy. From year to year, the planet has turned more rapidly, and the orders have not been changed. Then what? Asked the little prince. Then minus. The planet now makes a complete turn every minute. And I no longer have a single second for repose. Once every minute, I have to light my lamp and put it out. That is very funny. A day lasts only 1 minute. Here where you live, it is not funny at all, said the lamplighter. Well, we have been talking together, a month has gone by. A month? Yes, a month. 30 minutes. 30 days? He felt that he loved this lamplighter, who was so faithful to his orders. He remembered the sunsets which he himself had gone to seek. You know, he said, I can tell you a way you can rest whenever you want to. I always want to rest, said the lamplighter, for it is possible for a man to be faithful and lazy at the same time. The little prince went on with his explanation. Your planet is so small that 3 strides will take you all the way around it. To be always in the sunshine, you need only walk along rather slowly. When you want to rest, you will walk minus, and the day will last as long as you like. That doesn't do me much good, said the lamplighter. The one thing I love in life is to sleep. Then you're unlucky, said the little prince. I am unlucky, said the lamplighter. Good morning. And he put out his lamp. That man, said the little prince to himself as he continued farther on his journey. That man would be scorned by all the others, by the king, by the conceited man, by the Tibble-Ar, by the businessman. Nevertheless, he is the only one of them all who does not seem to me ridiculous. Perhaps that is because he is thinking of something else besides himself. Again, that man is the only one of them all whom I could have made my friend. But his planet is indeed too small. There is no room on it for 2 people. What the little prince did not dare confess was that he was sorry most of all to leave this planet, because it was blessed every day with 1440 sunsets. The little prince visits the geographer. The 6th planet was 10 times larger than the last one. It was inhabited by an old gentleman who wrote voluminous books. Ah, look. Here is an explorer, he exclaimed to himself when he saw the little prince coming. The little prince sat down on the table and panted a little. He had already traveled so much and so far. Where do you come from? The old gentleman said to him. "What is that big book?" said the little prince. "What are you doing?" "I am a geographer." The old gentleman said to him, "What is a geographer?" Asked the little prince. "A geographer is a scholar who knows the location of all the seas, rivers, towns, mountains, and deserts." "That is very interesting," said the little prince. "Here at last is a man who has a real profession." And he cast a look around him at the planet of the geographer. "Your planet is very beautiful," he said. "Has it any oceans?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. Ah. The little prince was disappointed. "Has it any mountains?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. "And towns, and rivers, and deserts?" "I couldn't tell you that either. But you are a geographer." "Exactly," the geographer said. "But I am not an explorer. I haven't a single explorer on my planet. It is not the geographer who goes out to count the towns, the rivers, the mountains, the seas, the oceans, and the deserts. The geographer is much too important to go loafing about. He does not leave his desk, but he receives the explorers in his study. He asks them questions, and he notes down what they recall of their travels. And if the recollections of anyone among them seem interesting to him, the geographer orders an enquiry into that explorer's moral character. So would an explorer who drank too much. Why is that? Then the geographer would note down to mountains in a place where there was only one. "I know someone," said the little prince, "who would make a bad explorer." "That is possible. Then, when the moral character of the explorer is shown to be good, an inquiry is ordered into his discovery. One goes to see it." "No, that would be too complicated. But one requires the explorer to furnish proofs. One requires that large stones be brought back from it." The geographer was suddenly stirred to excitement. "But you minus you come from far away. You are an explorer. You shall describe your planet to me." And having opened his big register, the geographer sharpened his pencil. The recitals of explorers are put down first in pencil. One waits until the explorer has furnished proofs before putting them down in ink. "Well," said the geographer expectantly. "Oh, it lives," said the little prince. "It is not very interesting. It is all so small. I have 3 volcanoes. 2 volcanoes are active, and the other is extinct. I have also a flower. We do not record flowers," said the geographer. "Why is that?" The flower is the most beautiful thing on my planet. We do not record them, said the geographer, because they are ephemeral. What does that mean, minus, ephemeral? Geographies, said the geographer, are the books which of all books are most concerned with matters of consequence. They never become old minus fashioned. It is very rarely that a mountain changes its position. Right of eternal things. But extinct volcanoes may come to life again. The little prince interrupted. What does that mean, minus, ephemeral? Whether volcanoes are extinct or alive, it comes to the same thing for us, said the geographer. The thing that matters to us is the mountain. It does not change. But what does that mean, minus, ephemeral? Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question. Once he had asked it. It means, which is in danger of speedy disappearance. Is my flower in danger of speedy disappearance? Certainly it is. My flower is ephemeral, the little prince said to himself. And I have left her on my planet, all alone. That was his first moment of regret. But he took courage once more. What place would you advise me to visit now? It has a good reputation. And the little prince went away. The Earth is not just an ordinary planet. One can count 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7,500,000 tipulores, 311 million conceited men minus, that is to say, about 2. Zoro-grown minus-ups. To give you an idea of the size of the Earth, I will tell you that before the invention of electricity, it was necessary to maintain, over the whole of the 6 continents, a veritable army of 462, 511 lamp-lighters for the street lamps. Seen from a slight distance, that would make a splendid spectacle. The movements of this army would be regulated like those of the ballet in the opera. Having set their lamps alike, these would go off to sleep. Next, the lamplighters of China and Siberia would enter for their steps in the dance. And then they too would be waved back into the wings. Then those of South America, then those of South America, then those of North America. And never would they make a mistake in the order of their entry upon the stage. It would be magnificent. Only the man who was in charge of the single lamp at the North Pole, and his colleague who was responsible for the single lamp at the South Pole minus, only these two would live free from toil and care. They would be busy twice a year. The little prince makes the acquaintance of the snake when one wishes to play the wit. He sometimes wanders a little from the truth. I have not been altogether honest in what I have told you about the lamplighters, and I realize that I run the risk of giving a false idea of our planet to those who do not know it. Men occupy a very small place upon the earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants who people its surface were all to stand uprightened, somewhat crowded together, as they do for some big public assembly, they could easily be put into one public square 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. All humanity could be piled up on a small Pacific islet. The grown miners ups, to be sure, will not believe you when you tell them that. They fancy themselves as important as the Baobabs. You should advise them, then, to make their own calculations. They adore figures, and that will please them. But do not waste your time on this extra task. It is unnecessary. You have, I know, confidence in me. When the little prince arrived on the earth, he was very much surprised not to see any people. He was beginning to be afraid he had come to the wrong planet, when a coil of gold, the color of the moonlight, flashed across the sand. "Good evening," said the little Prince Curtis Wells. "Good evening," said the snake. "What planet is this on which I have come down?" "This is the Earth, this is Africa." There are no people. This is the desert. There are no people in the desert. The earth is large, said the snake. The little prince sat down on a stone. Whether the stars are set alight in heaven so that one day each one of us may find his own again. Look at my planet. It is right there above us, but how far away it is. It is beautiful, the snake said. What has brought you here? I have been having some trouble with the flower, said the little prince. And they were both silent. Where are the men? The little prince at last took up the conversation again. It is a little lonely in the desert. It is also lonely among men. You are a funny animal, he said at last. You are no thicker than a finger, but I am more powerful than the finger of a king, said the snake. The little prince smiled. You are not very powerful. You haven't even any feet. You cannot even travel. I can carry you farther than any ship could take you, said the snake. He twined himself around the little prince's ankle. Like a golden bracelet, whomever I touch, I send back to the earth from whence he came. The snake spoke again. But you are innocent and true. And you come from a star. The little prince made no reply. You move me to pity minus. You were so weak on this earth made of granite. Snake said, if you grow too homesick for your own planet, I can minus so. I understand you very well, said the little prince. Said the snake, and they were both silent. The little prince goes looking for men and meets a flower. The little prince crossed the desert and met with only one flower. It was a flower with 3 petals, a flower of no account at all. Good morning, said the little prince. Good morning, said the flower. Where are the men? The little prince asked, politely. The flower had once seen a caravan passing. Men? She echoed. I think there are 6 or 7 of them in existence. I saw them several years ago, but one never knows where to find them. The little prince climbs a mountain range after that. The little prince climbed a high mountain. The only mountains he had ever known were the 3 volcanoes, which came up to his knees, and he used the extinct volcano as a footstool. From a mountain as high as this one, he said to himself, I shall be able to see the whole planet at one glance, and all the people. But he saw nothing, save peaks of rock that were sharpened like needles. Good morning, he said Kurzweils. Good morning minus. Good morning minus. Good morning, answered the echo. Who are you? Said the little prince. Answered the echo. What a queer planet, he thought. It is altogether dry and altogether pointed, and altogether harsh and forbidding. On my planet, I had a flower. She always was the first to speak. The little prince discovers a garden of roses. But it happened that after walking for a long time through and its night through direction, and rocks and snow, the little prince at last came upon a road. And all roads lead to the abodes of men. Good morning, he said. He was standing before a garden, all a minus bloom with roses. They all looked like his flower. Who are you? He demanded, thunderstruck. We are roses, the roses said, and he was overcome with sadness. His flower had told him that she was the only one of her kind in all the universe. And you were 5,000 of them, all alike, in one single garden. She would be very much annoyed, he said to himself. If she should see that, she would cough most dreadfully. And I should be obliged to pretend that I was nursing her back to life -4 if I did not do that. To humble myself also, she would really allow herself to die. Then he went on with his reflections. I thought that I was rich. A common rose, and 3 volcanoes that come up to my knees, minus, and one of them perhaps extinct forever. That doesn't make me a very great prince. And he lay down in the grass and cried. The little prince, the fox. It was then that the fox appeared. Good morning, said the fox. Good morning. The little prince responded politely, although when he turned around he saw nothing. I am right here, the voice said, under the apple tree. Who are you? I am a fox, said the fox. Come and play with me, proposed the little prince. I am so unhappy. I cannot play with you. Please excuse me, said the little prince. But after some thought, he added, I am looking for men, said the little prince. What does that mean? Minus tame. Men, said the fox. They have guns. And they hunt. It is very disturbing. They also raise chickens. These are their only interests. Are you looking for chickens? No, said the little prince. I am looking for friends. What does that mean, minus tame? It is an act too oft unneglected, said the fox. Just that, said the fox. To me, you are still nothing more than a little boy who is just like 100,000 other little boys. And I have no need of you. And you, on your part, have no need of me. To you, I am nothing more than a fox, like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world. To you, I shall be unique in all the world. I am beginning to understand, said the little prince. There is a flower. I think that she has tamed me. It is possible, said the fox. On the earth one sees all sorts of things. Oh, but this is not on the earth, said the little prince. The fox seemed perplexed and very curious. On another planet? Yes. Are there hunters on this planet? No. Well, that is interesting. Are there chickens? No. Nothing is perfect, sighed the fox. But he came back to his idea. My life is very monotonous. The fox said, I hunt chickens, men hunt me. All the chickens are just alike. I am a little bored. But if you tame me, it will be as if the sun came to shine on my life. I shall know the sound of a step that will be different from all the others. Other steps send me hurrying back underneath the ground. You see the grain minus fields down yonder. I do not eat bread. Wheat is of no use to me. The wheat fields have nothing to say to me. And that is sad. But you have hair that is the color of gold. Think how wonderful that will be when you have tamed me. The grain, which is also golden, will bring me back the thought of you. And I shall love to listen to the wind in the wheat. The fox gazed at the little prince for a long time. The little prince replied, but I have not much time. but there is no shop anywhere where one can buy friendship. Tame me. What must I do to tame you? Asked the little prince. You must be very patient, replied the fox. First you will sit down at a little distance from me, minus, like that minus in the grass. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings. But you will sit a little closer to me. Every day. The next day, the little prince came back. It would have been better to come back at the same hour. I shall show you how happy I am. But if you come, at just any time, I shall never know at what hour my heart is to be ready to greet you. One must observe the proper rites. What is a rite? Asked the little prince. Those also are actions too often neglected, said the fox. They are what make one day different from other days. So Thursday is a wonderful day for me. I can take a walk as far as the vineyards. But if the hunters danced at just any time, every day would be like every other day. And I should never have any vacation at all. So the little prince tamed the fox. Said the fox, I shall cry. It is your own fault, said the little prince. I never wished you any sort of harm, but you wanted me to tame you. Yes, that is so, said the fox. But now you are going to cry, said the little prince. Yes, that is so, said the fox. Then it has done you no good at all. It has done me good, said the fox, because of the color of the wheat fields. And then he had it go and look again at the roses. You will understand now that yours is unique in all the world. Then come back to say goodbye to me, and I will make you a present of a secret. The little prince went away to look again at the roses. You are not at all like my rose, he said. As yet, you are nothing. No one has tamed you, and you have tamed no one. You are like my fox when I first knew him. He was only a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But I have made him my friend, and now he is unique in all the world. But you are empty, he went on. One could not die for you. To be sure, an ordinary passerby would think that my rose looked just like you minus, the rose that belongs to me. Because it is she that I have watered, because it is she. Because it is she that I have put under the glass globe, because it is for her that I have killed the caterpillars except the 2 or 3 that we saved to become butterflies, because it is she that I have listened to. When she grumbled or boasted, or even sometimes when she said nothing, because she is my rose. And he went back to meet the fox. Now, what is essential is invisible to the eye, the little prince repeated, so that he would be sure to remember. It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important. It is the time I have wasted from my rose minus, said the little prince, so that he would be sure to remember. Men have forgotten this truth, said the fox, but you must not forget it. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose. I am responsible for my rose, the little prince repeated, so that he would be sure to remember. The little prince encounters a railway switchman. Good morning, said the little prince. Good morning. Said the switchman. I send off the trains that carry them now to the right, now to the left, and a brilliantly lighted express train shook the switchman's cabin as it rushed by with a roar like thunder. They are in a great hurry, said the little prince. Said the switchman, and a second brilliantly lighted express thundered by in the opposite direction. Are they coming back already? Demanded the little prince. These are not the same ones. Asked the little prince. No one is ever satisfied where he is, said the switchman, and they heard the roaring thunder of a third brilliantly lighted express. Are they pursuing the first travelers? Demanded the little prince. They are pursuing nothing at all, said the switchman. Only the children are flattening their noses against the window panes. Only the children know what they are looking for, said the little prince. They waste their time over a rag doll, and it becomes very important to them. And if anybody takes it away from them, they cry. They are lucky, the switchman said. The narrator and the little prince, thirsty, hunt for a well in the desert. It was now the 8th day since I had had my accident in the desert, and I had listened to the story of the merchant as I was drinking the last drop of my water supply. 2 should be very happy if I could walk at my leisure toward a spring of fresh water. My friend the fox, minus the little prince, said to me, My dear little man, this is no longer a matter that has anything to do with the fox. Why not? Because I am about to die of thirst. I, for instance, am very glad to have had a fox as a friend. He has no way of guessing the danger. I said to myself, he has never been either hungry or thirsty. A little sunshine is all he needs. But he looked at me steadily and replied to my thought, I am thirsty too. Let us look for a well. I made a gesture of weariness. It is absurd to look for a well at random in the immensity of the desert. But nevertheless, in silence, the darkness fell, and the stars began to come out. Thirst had made me a little feverish, and I looked at them as if I were in a dream. The little prince's last words came reeling back into my memory. Then you are thirsty too? I demanded, but he did not reply to my question. He merely said to me, water may also be good for the heart. I did not understand this answer, but I said nothing. I knew very well that it was impossible to cross-examine him. He was tired. He sat down. I sat down beside him, and after a little silence, he spoke again. The stars are beautiful because of a flower that cannot be seen, I replied. Yes, that is so, and without saying anything more. The desert beautiful, the little prince added, and that was true. I have always loved the desert. Here's nothing. Yet through the silence, something throbs. Is that somewhere it hides a well? I was astonished by a sudden understanding of that mysterious radiation of the sands. When I was a little boy, I lived in an old house, and legend told us that a treasure was buried there. To be sure, no one had ever known how to find it. Perhaps no one had ever even looked for it. Yes, I said to the little prince, the house, the stars, the desert minus what gives them their beauty is something that is invisible. I am glad, he said, that you agree with my fox. I felt deeply moved and stood. It seemed to me that I was carrying a very fragile treasure. It seemed to me, even, that there was nothing more fragile on all earth. In the moonlight, I looked at his pale forehead, his closed eyes, his locks of hair that trembled in the wind, and I said to myself, as his lips opened slightly with the suspicious of a half-minus smile, I said to myself, again, what moves me so deeply about this little prince who is sleeping here. is his loyalty to a flower minus, the image of a rose that shines through his whole being like the flame of a lamp. I felt the need of protecting him, as if he himself were a flame that might be extinguished by a little puff of wind. And as I walked on so, I found the well at daybreak. Finding a well, the narrator and the little prince discuss his return to his planet. Men, said the little prince, set out on their way in express trains, but they do not know what they are looking for. Then they rush about and get excited and turn round and round. And he added, it is not worth the trouble. The well that we had come to was not like the wells of the Sahara. The wells of the Sahara are mere holes dug in the sand. This one was like a well in a village, but there was no village here. And I thought I must be dreaming. It is strange. The pulley, the bucket, the rope. He laughed, touched the rope, and set the pulley to working. And the pulley moaned, like an old weather vane, which the wind has long since forgotten. Do you hear? Said the little prince. We have wakened the well, and it is singing. I did not want him to tire himself with the rope. He's... I hoisted the bucket slowly to the edge of the well and set it there minus happy. Tired as I was over my achievement, the song of the pulley was still in my ears, and I could see the sunlight shimmer in the still trembling water. I am thirsty for this water, said the little prince. Give me some of it to drink. And I understood what he had been looking for. I raised the bucket to his lips. He drank, his eyes closed. It was as sweet as some special festival treat. This water was indeed a different thing from ordinary nourishment. Its sweetness was born of the walk under the stars, the song of the pulley, the effort of my arms. It was good for the heart, like a present. When I was a little boy, the lights of the Christmas tree, the music of the midnight mass, the tenderness of smiling faces used to make up, so, the radiance of the gifts I received. The men where you live, said the little prince, raise 5,000 roses in the same garden minus, and they do not find in it what they are looking for. They do not find it, I replied. And yet what they are looking for could be found in one single rose, or in a little water. Yes, that is true, I said. One must look with the heart. I had drunk the water. I breathed easily. At sunrise the sand is the color of honey. And that honey color was making me happy too. What brought me? Then, this sense of grief. You must keep your promise. said the little prince, softly, as he sat down beside me once more. I am responsible for this flower. I took my rough drafts of drawings out of my pocket. The little prince looked them over and laughed as he said, "Your Bobo, Bess minus, they look a little like cabbages." Oh, I had been so proud of my Boba Bess. Your fox minus, his ears look a little like horns, and they are too long. And he laughed again. "You are not fair, little prince," I said. "I don't know how to draw anything, except boa constrictors from the outside and boa constrictors from the inside." "Oh, that will be all right," he said. "Children understand." So then I made a pencil sketch of a muzzle, and as I gave it to him, my heart was torn. "You have plans that I do not know about," I said. But he did not answer me. He said to me, "Instead you know minus sent to the earth. Tomorrow will be its anniversary." Then, after a silence, he went on, "I came down very near here." And he flushed. One question, however, occurred to me then. It was not by chance that on the morning when I first met you minus a week ago you were strolling along like that. The little prince flushed again, and I added, with some hesitancy, "Perhaps it was because of the anniversary." The little prince flushed once more. "Now you must work. You must return to your engine. I will be waiting for you here. Come back tomorrow evening." But I was not reassured. I remembered the fox. One runs the risk of weeping a little if one lets himself be tamed. The little prince converses with the snake. The little prince consoles the narrator. The little prince returns to his planet. Beside the well, there was the ruin of an old stone wall. When I came back from my work the next evening, I saw from some distance away my little Price sitting on top of a wall. "This is not the exact spot." Another voice must have answered him. "It is the right day." But this is not the place. I continued my walk toward the wall. At no time did I see or hear anyone. The little prince, however, replied once again minus exactly. "You will see where my track begins. In the sand. You have nothing to do but wait for me there. I shall be there tonight." I was only 20 meters from the wall. And I still saw nothing. After a silence, the little prince spoke again. "You have good poison?" You are sure that it will not make me suffer too long? I stopped in my tracks, my heart torn asunder, but still I did not understand. Now go away, said the little prince. I want to get down from the wall. I dropped my eyes then to the foot of the wall minus, and I leapt into the air. There before me, facing the little prince, was one of those yellow snakes that take just 30 seconds to bring your life to an end. Even as I was digging into my pocket to get out my revolver, I made a running step back. But at the noise I made, the snake let himself flow easily across the sand, and like the dying spray of a fountain, and in no apparent hurry, disappeared with a light metallic sound. Among the stones, I reached the wall just in time to catch my little man in my arms. His face was white as snow. What does this mean? I demanded. Why are you talking with snakes? I had loosened the golden muffler that he always wore. I had moistened his temples and had given him some water to drink. And now I did not dare ask him any more questions. I felt his heart beating like the heart of a dying bird. He said, "Now you can go back home, minus. How do you know about that?" I was just coming to tell him that my work had been successful. Beyond anything that I had dared to hope. He made no answer to my question. But he added, I too am going back home today. Then, sadly, minus, it is much farther. It is much more difficult. I realized clearly that something extraordinary was happening. I was holding him close in my arms as if he were a little child. And yet it seemed to me that he was rushing headlong toward an abyss from which I could do nothing to restrain him. His look was very serious, like someone lost far away. I have your sheep, and I have the sheep's box, and I have the muzzle. And he gave me a sad smile. I waited a long time. I could see that he was reviving little by little. "Dear little man," I said to him, "you are afraid." He was afraid. There was no doubt about that. But he laughed lightly. "I shall be much more afraid this evening." Once again, I felt myself frozen by the sense of something irreparable. For me, it was like a spring of fresh water in the desert. "Little man," I said, "I want to hear you laugh again." But he said to me tonight, "It will be a year. My star, then, can be found right above the place where I came to the earth. A year ago." "Little man," I said, "tell me that it is only a bad dream minus this affair of the snake, and the meeting minus place, and the star." But he did not answer my plea. "Yes, I know. It is just as it is with the flower. If you love a flower that lives on a star, it is sweet to look at the sky at night." All the stars are a minus bloom with flowers. Yes, I know. It is just as it is with the water. Where I live, everything is so small that I cannot show you where my star is to be found. It is better like that. My star will just be one of the stars for you. And so you will love to watch all the stars in the heavens. They will all be your friends. And besides, I am going to make you a present. I love to hear that laughter. That is my present. Just that. It will be as it was when we drank the water. What are you trying to say? All men have the stars. He answered, but they are not the same things for different people. For some who are travelers, the stars are guides. For others, they are no more than little lights in the sky. For others, who are scholars, they have problems. For my businessmen, they were wealth. But all these stars are silent. You minus, you alone minus, will have the stars as no one else has the minus. What are you trying to say? And so it will be as if all the stars were laughing. When you look at the sky at night, you minus will have stars that can laugh. And he laughed again. And when your sorrows comfort at times soothes all sorrows, you will be content that you have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me. Then you will say to them, yes, the stars always make me laugh. And they will think you are crazy. It will be a very shabby trick that I shall have played on you. And he laughed again. It will be as if, in place of the stars, I had given you a great number of little bells that knew how to laugh. And he laughed again. Then he quickly became serious. Tonight minus, you know. Do not come, said the little prince. I shall not leave you, I said. I shall look as if I were suffering. I shall look a little as if I were dying. It is like that. Do not come to see that. It is not worth the trouble. They must not bite you. Snakes minus, they are malicious creatures. This one might bite you just for fun. I shall not leave you. That night I did not see him set out on his way. He got away from me without making a sound. When I succeeded in catching up with him, he was walking along with a quick and resolute step. He said to me merely, "Oh, you are there." And he took me by the hand. But he was still worrying. It was wrong of you to come. You will suffer. I said nothing. You understand. It is too far. I cannot carry this body with me. It is too heavy. I said nothing, but it will be like an old abandoned shell. There is nothing sad about old shells. I said nothing. He was a little discouraged, but he made one more effort. You know, it will be very nice. I too shall look at the stars. All the stars will be wells with a rusty pulley. All the stars will pour out fresh water for me to drink. And I shall have 500 million springs of fresh water. And he too said nothing more, because he was crying. Here it is. Let me go on by myself. And he sat down, because he was afraid. Then he said, again, you know, minus my flower. I am responsible for her. And she is so weak. She is so naïve. She has 4 thorns, of no use at all, to protect herself against all the world. I just sat down, because I was not able to stand up any longer. They're now minus, that is all. He still hesitated a little, then he got up. He took 1 step. I could not move. There was nothing but a flash of yellow close to his ankle. He remained motionless for an instant. He did not cry out. He fell as gently as a tree falls. There was not even any sound. Because of the sand, the narrator's afterthoughts. And now 6 years have already gone by. I have never yet told this story. I was sad, but I told them I am tired. Now my sorrow is comforted a little. Because I did not find his body at that daybreak. It was not such a heavy body. And at night, I love to listen to the stars. It is like 500 million little bells. But there is one extraordinary thing. When I drew the muzzle for the little prince, I forgot to add the leather strap to it. He will never have been able to fasten it on his sheep. So now I keep wondering, what is happening on his planet? Surely not. The little prince shuts his flower under her glass globe every night. And there is sweetness in the laughter of all the stars. But at another time I say to myself, at some moment or other one is absent-minded. And that is enough. On some one evening he forgot the glass globe. Or the sheep got out, without making any noise, in the night. and then the little bells are changed to tears. Here, then, is a great mystery for you who also love the little prince. And for me, nothing in the universe can be the same if somewhere. We do not know where. A sheep that we never saw has minus yes or no. Minus Eden arose. Look up at the sky. Ask yourselves, is it yes or no? Has the sheep eaten the flower? And you will see how everything changes. And no grown minus-up will ever understand that this is a matter of so much importance. This is, to me, the loveliest and saddest landscape in the world. It is the same as that on the preceding page, but I have drawn it again to impress it on your memory. And disappeared. Look at it carefully so that you will be sure to recognize it in case you travel someday to the African desert. And if you should come upon this spot, please do not hurry on. Wait for a time, exactly under the star. Then, if a little lamb appears you lost, who has golden hair and who refuses to answer questions, you will know who he is. If this should happen, please comfort me. Send me word that he has come back. Have a good dream. See you tomorrow.